Glancing over my records of the late last century, I am faced by the events of a certain bitter winter. A murder in a carriage as it sped through dense London fog in the dead of night. Though the victim and the perpetrator were the only ones inside, there were multiple witnesses to the crime itself. However, none could have imagined at the time that such a seemingly obvious case as this would end in such a horrendous manner. My friend, Mr. Herlock Sholmes, once said of the incident, "I believe that perhaps that case was indeed the prelude, the beginning of a long concerto that impressive Japanese student and I were to play together."
Amazing. Is this really just a railway station?
Railway station or not, I've never seen such an enormous building before.
And look at all the steam locomotives. This country is incredible.
I feel like I'm dreaming.
So this is the capital of Great Britain.
So, where to?
Oh, hello.
Climb aboard. I'll take you wherever you want to go.
In that case, the Supreme Court in Whitehall, if you wouldn't mind.
My pleasure. I suppose you're visiting students from abroad, eh?
Yes.
Thought so. Well then, I hope you enjoy your stay. And welcome to the centre of the world, Great Britain's mighty capital, London.
Okay, so I never heard of it being possible to be so amazed by seeing Britain before. Maybe Britain is romanticized in Japan, just like Paris might be romanticized in Japan. Certainly in the United States, it's not romanticized at all. It's stereotyped as having bad weather or being always cast over, and bad food. But anyway, yeah, that last case, I was really hoping for a trial. I was really hoping that they would go to court. And they didn't. And I didn't think that Pavlova would be the person who did it, quote unquote, as you could say, because I thought the case would be more complicated than that. Because I thought we'd have to go to court, and there'd be more investigation afterward, and then we'd have to go back to court. But it turned out that didn't have any court in it. It was just purely an investigation. Like I said, it's like an Ace Attorney, was like a Investigations Miles Edgeworth kind of case. And I was really disappointed in that because, well, I wanted a trial to happen. And although it wasn't necessarily a bad piece of story, it would have been better if I had a trial in it. Now, Ace Attorney games, at least the first two had 4 cases per, not counting Rise from the Ashes, because that came later, after the original trilogy was finished. And so, in order to have the same value of court cases as the original Ace Attorney games, you would then need only 3 more full cases, besides the tutorial. And because this has 5 chapters in it, at least the first game does, you could still have 3 full court case, 3-4 cases with trials and multiple trials. So it doesn't necessarily have less trial volume as the original Ace Attorney games. But starting from Trials and Tribulations onward, they did to set the precedent for there being 4 cases. The 4th case being like the first one, where it was only a trial and no investigation. So they have a short 1 trial case, like the intro is, on the 4th case. Here they decided to experiment and change it up a bit and do like an investigation-only case as opposed to a trial-only case in the 2nd case. The thing is, trials are more fun than investigations in my opinion, and so it wasn't as good as having an extra trial-only case. Yeah, this is my opinion on that. They tried to mix it up and do something different, but different doesn't necessarily mean better. Now, this is a very steampunk representation of Britain here. What exactly are these works meant to power? Don't know. It's an incredible place. It makes no sense whatsoever. It's so imposing. It's almost suffocating. Well, that's the pollution from the coal-burning power plants. This place is breathtaking. It looks like a fortress. There are some stone buildings like this in Japan now, of course. But they've only been built in a few short decades since we've opened our borders to the outside world. An authentic example like this has quite a different impact, wouldn't you agree? Yeah, we don't really build stone buildings anymore, because we can make something like go through its planned lifespan, which is basically until we want to build something bigger there, if we're just using fiber reinforced concrete, which is cheaper and easier. You don't have to transport it already cut, you can transport it liquefied and pour it on site. So, if you wanted to make a house more robust than a typical plywood palace, then you would build it like an academic building and you would use reinforced concrete. Far cry from the wood and paper most of our buildings are constructed from. Now, the reason why we do wood and paper is because we don't want houses to be so expensive you can't own one. Except, that's the case anyway. But even more so, certainly unfamiliar. I think there's more to the differences than just construction materials. Who is this place again? This is the Lord Chief Justice's office, Naruhodo-san, in the Supreme Court of Great Britain. Oh, she's just talking to him. It's like, you use "san" when addressing the Supreme Court Lord Chief Justice's office in Britain? The Lord Chief Justice. He's going to be either the judge or the person who did it in the final trial. We had instructions to report here at this time. If circumstances were different, we were supposed to let the Lord Chief Justice know that we had arrived from Japan. But Kazuma can't. No. So instead, we were here in a different capacity. As invoiced to report the news of Kazuma-sama's death. Yes. And having delivered his or her message, an invoice duty is done. So we have to return to Japan. If we want to remain here in Great Britain, I have to take Kazuma's place as the law student selected for the study tour. Yes, which means you need to requisite qualifications as a lawyer, which is what I've been studying for. Here in Great Britain, it is the Lord Chief Justice who appoints lawyers. So that's the second reason why we're here, to have you officially recognized as a lawyer. It's the only way that we'll be able to remain here in London. I hope I'm up to scratch. Ah, good morning. Sorry for keeping you. Oh. Yeah, this guy definitely looks like a person who could do a breakdown. I trust you aren't too exhausted after your long voyage from Japan. Humph. It seems I'm 1 hour, 12 minutes, and 47 seconds late. My apologies. That's pretty late! Oh no, don't mention it. We're never happier than when we're standing around with nothing much to do. How fortunate. So, introductions. I am Miles Strongheart, Lord Chief Justice of the British Empire. And I feel like a little mouse under an elephant's foot. Come on, Mr. Naruhodo, don't be a mouse. It's an honor to meet you, Lord Chief Justice Strongheart. I'm Ryanosuke Naruhodo, from the Empire of Japan. There's probably a little, like, discontinuity in the background animation there, because I had to take a break to go do something. Well, Mr. Naruhodo. Welcome to London, the capital of our glorious British Empire. Now, ideally, you would read this line in a British accent. The problem is I cannot do a British accent. So, it's kind of out of, like, not in the cards. Yes, thank you. Well, giving me a whole lot of options here. Wait a second, we have all three. Okay. There's a lot of space that can be queried here. Just look at all the naughty books packed together in these shelves. They go from floor to ceiling. And they're all books that you couldn't hope to come by in Japan. It's like a dream. Yes, a very bad dream. You couldn't read all of them, so like, what's the point? You can only read one, in your, like, maybe one row in your lifetime of one section. They're not all about British law either. There are books about the judicial system of other Western nations. France, Germany, Spain, Holland. What about Russia? Why do you ask? I was wondering about asking the Lord Chief Justice how you'd say wardrobe in Russian. What do you think? I think perhaps it's a thought best abandoned. Is he thinking about, like, what constitutes involuntary manslaughter? Is this some kind of clock? Actually, I think we might be inside some sort of giant clock. Oh! But these gears are larger than anything you'd find on a steam locomotive even. It's eerie. Do you think clocks are some sort of hobby of his? The Lord Chief Justice, I mean? Well, boys do enjoy fiddling around with machines, don't they? I'm not sure you could fiddle with cogs that size, and I'm certain you wouldn't call him a boy. Still, it's amazing how little noise the cogs make, considering how large they are. Would you call King Kong a monkey? Would you call Godzilla a lizard? Yes. There's now actually something quite soothing about their precise rhythm. Now, this could get involved in a crime here. I think apparently it happened in a carriage, though. Look at these menacing metal giants facing each other across the room. I believe they're suits of armor. You had to look that up? Oh, right. I thought maybe they were like the lion dogs we have in Japan guarding shrine gates. No, not at all. In fact, in Europe, suits of armor like these are always possessed by evil spirits, you know. And they roam around in the middle of the night. Really? Is there nothing you don't know, Miss Susato? This book tells me everything I need to know about everything. If you're ever unsure, just ask. Everything that just would happen to come up in this particular game, someone predicted it and wrote it down in that book. Where did she get that incredible tome? Can't examine the carpet. How about the chair? This must be the Lord Chief Justice's desk. I believe it's made of marble. It looks more like an over-the-top tombstone than toppled over to me. That toppled over to me. I think that's your fanciful imagination at work again, Mr. Naruhodo. It feels like everything that's normally made of wood and paper at home is made of bricks and stone here. I know, that's why this place feels so overbearing, I'm sure. So, basically Britain is the third little pig. I guess that's all. So, what are your impressions of our capital so far? How do you like London? Oh, help! I've been so nervous ever since I got here that I can't remember a single thing about the city. It's simply splendid, isn't it, Mr. Naruhodo? Oh. We had a wonderful view of some of London's streets from the carriage on the way here from the station. Everything is so impressive and grand. I must say I'm almost lost for words. A lot of wasteful spending what produces that. I'm glad to hear you like it. The city boasts tramways, piped water and gas, even cables supplying electricity. We spearhead every revolutionary new technology in the world. Every visitor to London is astounded. Have you heard? You realize that Nikola Tesla was an American? Oh yes, astounded is the word. Thanks for saving me there, Susato-san. And everyone seems so jolly and full of vigor in London. Yes. There's much excitement about the upcoming Great Exhibition we'll be hosting here in London. Great Exhibition? Cultural and technological achievements from around the globe are to be exhibited here in our great city. It will be the greatest spectacle of its kind in history, and it will make Paris's World Fair look like a toy shop. Gosh, I can hardly imagine how magnificent it's going to be. And pointless. Great Britain's capital city is nothing but magnificent. London is the center of the modern world. Even if you do say so yourself. The sun will never set on our great empire. Okay, yeah. I had to remember what that meant. Perhaps it is fate that in these progressive times we will welcome visitors from the land of the rising sun. Lord Chief Justice, I think you were expecting a student of law for this study tour, weren't you? Absolutely. Mr. Kazuma Asogi, if my memory serves. That's right. The British government has already been telegraphed a full report on the situation. I understand the young man lost his life aboard the steamship bound for our shores. That's amazing. The news reached him before we even arrived. My country naturally extends its deepest condolences to yours. Oh, thank you. But that won't bring him back to life. And you honored his appointment specifically to inform me of the news? Yes. We are here in the capacity of envoys from Japan to report the sad news in person. They tell me you Japanese are a people of protocol and courtesy, and I see that it's true. And it is with some regret that I must inform you that the death of your young lawyer means the study tour arrangement can no longer proceed. If you would just hear us out, Lord Strongheart. What do you have to say, madame? It's about the study tour. Mr. Naruhodo here would like to make a proposal. Would he now? Well, Mr. Naruhodo. This is it then. The moment of truth. Thing is, Lord Strongheart, I was wondering if perhaps you could consider allowing the study tour to go ahead. Don't misunderstand me. Britain would ideally like to see the tour go ahead. Without a lawyer from your country, there is nothing to be done. Well, in that case, what if there was someone else? Another lawyer from Japan, I mean. Is there something I don't know? Only a single lawyer was invited to Great Britain from your country, and that was Mr. Asogi. At least, that is what I've been led to understand. Well, the thing is, this really isn't going well at all. I just can't seem to find the right words to say to this man. It's very simple. I just so happen to be a lawyer. And the reason why I'm here is not because I was invited. I stowed away. But I am a lawyer, and I am here. Mr. Naruhodo, I could ruin things here if I'm not careful. What am I going to say? If there is someone else here from Japan who could be described as a lawyer, it's me. Here's the thing. You can get some... I'm gonna go for the goofy dialogue, just so we can experience the goofy dialogue. It's probably... It can only be... Yes, Miss Susato. An unusual introduction, but I presume you mean this charming lady beside you. You're a lawyer, are you? She certainly could be. That look she's giving me. After all the days of hard work she put in to help me study, I can't let her down now. I think that's quite enough joking, don't you? Lord Strongheart, my real answer is, it's me. I can do it. Is that so? I mean, I don't actually have any qualifications as such, but... No qualifications, you say, and yet you still claim to be a lawyer. Yeah, like, doesn't being a lawyer mean you have qualifications by definition? I have acted as a lawyer in court before. Only once, as it happens. And I had Kazuma to help me, and I was the accused, but glossing over the details. I've been spending every spare moment on the journey here to Great Britain studying, and I've learned all about British law and court proceedings while I was on board the SS Buria. The voyage from Japan is some 50 days, I believe. Not what you might call a full education. To become a qualified lawyer here in Britain, not only do you need a university degree in law, you must also complete several years of training. I realize it's far too short a period of time, but I can't just go back to Japan. Kazuma, Mr. Asogi's journey had only just begun. Coming here in the study tour was all he thought about. I have to carry on and do everything he planned to do. I know it must sound like I have an overly inflated opinion of myself, but I would do anything to prove that I have what it takes, any test you care to set me. Just one chance, that's all I'm asking for. Please. 31 seconds. Sorry. Your opening statement there, Mr. Naruhodo, it was 31 seconds long. Not too brief, not too protracted. A perfectly judged appeal, I would say. Which is a skill that would stand you in good stead as a lawyer. Oh. Thanks. So, you're willing to put those words to trial, are you? Well, I'm all for entertainment. He isn't the clocks, isn't he? Huh? But let me ask you one thing first, sir. Yes? You say you intend to do everything Mr. Asogi planned to do. Are you firmly set on that path? Well, yes, that's my intention. I see. You have no idea what you signed up for. Am I imagining things? Or did his expression just alter a fraction there all of a sudden? Very well. You have your wish. I'll give you a chance. A test to become a specially certified lawyer. Whether you pass or fail is entirely down to you. Really? So, what form will the test take exactly? Tell me, Mr. Naruhodo, what do you consider the role of a lawyer to be? Well, defending people, of course. Well said. So, let's have you defend someone. The thing is, that's not quite the right answer. Well, of course, United States, a lawyer is somebody who is necessary because the sheer volume of information in the entire law library is so large that if you yourself is accused of a crime, how exactly you would go about defending yourself would be very daunting. So it's someone with a specialized education over many years to gain knowledge, to memorize get some knowledge of the laws and the court procedures already so that they can develop a case more quickly than you could and with better competence. You say, well, aren't you saying the same thing? Well, sometimes we don't call them you defend somebody, we call it counsel. So sometimes the lawyer will say it's best course to take a plea deal. They may not necessarily defend you. But whatever. Like I tend to think of lawyers less as, sometimes they do this, but less as somebody who tries to argue that you're innocent and more of somebody you pay that has knowledge you don't have because you need that knowledge. So it could be just making up a document. You could just be making up a will. Or you could be, or a trust. Or you could be getting a divorce. Or something like that. And that may, although divorce sometimes goes to court, it may not have to. Huh? There's already a case ready, isn't there? Your timing is perfect, in fact. There's an apt trial about to begin later today. No advocate has been appointed for the defense as yet, so this will be welcome news. This is welcome news to me, because then we'll have a trial mechanic. Today, straight away, if you manage to secure a verdict of not guilty, you'll have passed my test. But what if he is guilty, though? What could be simpler? It's like if you're a lawyer and you're hired by someone who's guilty to defend you, I wouldn't necessarily think of it as your job is to prove them not guilty. You don't even have to, the way the court's supposed to work, you don't even need to do that. Your job is to point out as many point out as many weaknesses in the case of the prosecution as possible. In order to avoid I don't know what the word I'm supposed to use, but to avoid the precedent being set that prosecutors can get away with shoddy cases. to make sure that no one gets to preclude, so that other people who might be innocent but are accused of a crime do not get convicted off of lame evidence. In other words, it's not necessarily to defend that one person who just may so happen to be guilty. It's to defend the concept of, in order for a prosecutor to be able to convince a jury that they're guilty, they really have to put in the effort and really make a good case, such that false convictions are minimized in frequency, if that makes sense. How do I get myself into these situations? So that's like my argument to, what's the lead singer of Disturbed's name? I like slipped my mind just the wrong moment. Something starts with the letter D. My goodness. Well, whatever. It's like my answer to him is like, how do you defend somebody who you know is guilty? And the answer, you're not defending that person necessarily. You're defending how hard it has to be in general to perform a successful prosecution. Well, could I ask, what sort of trial is it, Lord Strongheart? It's David Draymond. There we go. Yes, good question. I remember. It's a murder trial. A murder? Well, you are in an Ace Attorney game, and for some reason, in Ace Attorney, the crime is always murder. It's never a rape. It's never a theft. It's never an aggravated assault. It is like, it's not like corruption. It's just murder. An extremely simple case, I understand. You really can't lose. That's easy to say, but I should mention, just in case, if the defendant is found guilty, he will, of course, be sentenced to capital punishment. Capital punishment? He'll be put to death? Here in Great Britain, murderers are sent to the gallows without exception. Presumably, you read that much in your short C-based introduction to British law. We can't possibly agree to such a test. We would be toying with a man's life. I am the Lord Chief Justice, and I have decided it's acceptable. But you can't do that, can you? There is no need to overcomplicate this. All you have to do is ensure that you don't lose. So the defendant may live or die, depending on how well it performed in court. So like, this is the first time that aspect of this series is actually brought up. If I lose, he'll be hanged. Well, you've been in instances where if you lose, you'll be hanged, except I don't know if they necessarily would have hanged you in the first trial, apparently, but... Dahlia Hawthorne was also hanged. I noticed that there hasn't been an execution besides hanging mentioned in Ace Attorney except until now, as far as I've noticed. Mr. Naruhodo, you've come to me claiming to be a lawyer. If you want me to take you seriously, you'll need to prove that you're willing to do a lawyer's job. As you say, you intend to see through the will of your compatriot, Mr. Asogi. I would like to understand just how far you're willing to go in order to make that happen. He's testing my resolve. What's the matter? You've fallen silent. I'm sorry, but time is pressing. The trial begins shortly. I need an answer from you now. What is it to be? What do I say? Do I agree to this absurd test? Well, you get various dialogue. I'm gonna avoid the stress of picking the bad choice and just go for it. Even though there's no actual suspense, sometimes I feel it anyway. do I say? Alright then, if I have to give you a decision now, my answer is... I can't do it, I can't get the words out. 15 seconds. Your decision making needs work if you want to be a lawyer. That was too slow. So, it's as I suspected, is it? Sorry? You have noble intentions, but lack the resolve to see them through. The test is cancelled. Thank you for stopping by. Go and acquire your ticket for passage back to the east tomorrow. This conversation is over. Yes, Lord Strongheart. Thank you for offering me a chance. Mr. Naruhodo. I'm sorry, Miss Susato, but what could I do? It's alright, I understand. You do? It's not an easy decision to choose whether to defend a man in these circumstances. The resolve has absolutely nothing to do with it. What are you trying to say, madame? I think what Miss Susato means is that no matter how badly I'd like to be recognized as a lawyer and stay here in Great Britain, to risk another man's life by treating his one and only chance at a trial so trivially would be utterly unforgivable, and I feel exactly the same way. I'm sure the defendant won't see this trial as a test, as some kind of experiment. A lawyer may fight for his clients in court day after day, but for each one of those clients, the particular day they stand in the dock may be the only chance they have to fight to prove their innocence. No, I was wrong. I'm not qualified to do that job yet. I'm sorry for wasting your precious time, Lord Chief Justice. Wait, Mr. Naruhodo, I liked that speech you just made! Oh, was there something else? It's approximately 20 minutes by carriage to the Old Bailey from here. If you leave immediately, you should still be there in time. But I just said that. I was quite serious in what I told you. The defendant in this case has literally no one to advocate for him. What? At this point, he can't hope to find someone to represent him. The trial will begin without a defense. And if that happens, there's only one possible outcome. Okay, so Strongheart is kind enough to tell him that he doesn't really understand the situation. Cool. He'll receive the most severe sentence the judge can pass down. But that's awful. But that is the truth. Why does it have to be like this? Please don't expect an answer to every question. Because plot! That's why, Susato! The cold hard truth of the matter is that there is only one person now with a chance to save this man from a very miserable end. And that is you. And really his only hope? So, what do you say now, madame? It's like he wasn't expecting a lawyer to come from Japan. So what was the plan here exactly? Me, what do you mean, Lord Strongheart? You said it wasn't an easy decision to choose whether to defend a man in these circumstances, and I agree. But in my estimation, it is purely and simply a matter of resolve. Oh, you just didn't understand the circumstances, is what I would say. Our time is up here. I have a meeting to attend. I must leave in 2 minutes and 16 seconds. So venture into our great city and enjoy yourselves. He's gone. The Old Bailey. If we're going to do this, Mr. Naruhodo, we must leave at once. Okay, are there any examines that popped up that weren't there before? Yes. Miss Susato, can I just ask you something? Careful, from this position, I can perform a Susato takedown in an instant. I know. Mr. Naruhodo, you heard Lord Strongheart. The trial starts immediately. If I need to throw you, I will. You know, you could just say, I think we should hurry to the courtroom. If you need to ask me anything, it better wait until we're at the Old Bailey. Okay. Well, fine, give me no options. And we're supposed to do a move. It's like, why don't they just grade these out? Fine. Fine. I'll move. If we hurry to catch a cab, we just might make it to the courthouse on time. A check. Thank goodness we're in time. There's still 15 minutes until the trial begins. I never knew a horse-drawn carriage could go so fast. I thought my teeth were going to rattle loose. Did you hear what I said to the driver when he climbed aboard? Get us to our destination in 5 minutes, driver. There's a genie in it for you. It's one of my favorite lines from the Sherlock Holmes stories, and it worked quite perfectly. I'm not sure why you're so pleased. I thought we were going to die, and we had to pay gold for the privilege. Well, at least we arrived here before the trial started. Yes, I suppose there's that. Anyway, I don't understand it. The court clerk said the defendant should be here, but there's no sign of him at all. Is this the kind of the person who hides under the sofa? So this is the Old Bailey. Even this room for defendants to wait is even this room for the defendants to wait in is grand. Are you alright, Mr. Naruhodo? I'm feeling tense, that's all. This place gives me the same sense of foreboding that I remember from the Supreme Court of Japan. And oppressive air, almost as if the building itself is going to crush whoever's about to be sentenced. It feels like only yesterday that I was the one about to be crushed. Yes, whoever the man you're to defend is, I imagine he's feeling very alone at this moment. Top of the morning to you, madame, sir. What are yous doing, following me here? Things are fair desperate, are they? Sorry. Would you look at these expressionless faces from the east of you, are yous? We're from Japan, yes. Japan, is it right? Say no more. So, how much do yous need? No, we're just here because... No need to explain, fella. I've been there myself, so I have. No place to go, nothing to eat, barely a penny to your name, and all the while in a strange faraway land. Well, actually, we haven't found a place to stay yet, no. 'Tis grand, 'tis grand. Let me start by giving you 1,000 guineas. Say nothing now. 1,000 guineas? Please, Miss Susato, you don't have to shout. But 1,000 guineas is enough to build an entire mansion in the most prestigious area of Tokyo. What? It's nothing to me at all. I like to ensure I have sufficient funds to weather a rainy day, you see. I've enough wealth to buy the city of London 2 or 3 times over. Could that much rain even fall in one day? Well, even so, he couldn't possibly accept such a large sum of money. Ah, that hit me in the eye. Don't get me wrong, fella. I'm not giving it to you, no strings attached. I'll be wanting you to do something for me. Oh? To be honest, it's a little embarrassing. The trial's about to begin, you see, is for me good self here. I'll be in the dock. So now, what I want you to do is come along with me and stand there beside me. Officially, you'd be my lawyer, but that's just a little detail now. Oh, well, the thing is, don't worry about a thing. All you got to do is stand up there next to me, nothing more. Otherwise, you see, the trial is going to start without me having any kind of representation at all. So it was true. The Lord Chief Justice wasn't just making it all up. With all the money you have, why couldn't you hire anybody? I'm terribly sorry to have to ask, but does that mean you're the defendant in this trial? Blester and blazes, do yous not know who I am? Me, one of London's biggest names? If you're such a big name, again, why would you not have a lawyer? No, sorry, we've just arrived in the city, you see. I see. I suppose it isn't altogether impossible. Well, just next to Hyde Park there is the center of London, is another beautiful park. Sorry, a park? What? 'Tis called McGilded Park, full of blossoming flowers all in the spring and singing birds and whatnot. I donated it to the city, so I did. An entire park in central London? A city of smiles, that's my vision for London. There's nothing Mangus McGilded wouldn't do for the city and its core old people. That's amazing, I mean really extraordinary. But now they're all to say I'm a good-for-nothing criminal, me, Magnus McGilded. What is the matter with the London police, I ask ya? Alright, don't pass out. Mr. Naruhodo. Perhaps now would be a good time to introduce ourselves while the gentleman catches his breath. Good idea. Mr. McGilded, the thing is, we're actually here in London to study British law. We're law students on a study tour from Japan, you see. So, if you don't have a lawyer for the trial yet, and you'd be happy to put yourself in our hands, we'll do our best. What was I after saying, you daft eat? I'm giving you 1,000 Guinness to stand up there next to me, haven't I? Well, yes, but I wasn't really offering to just stand up there next to you. Oh, I think I see what's going on here. Sorry? I know what you're thinking. This Chancellor for a fellow claims to have more money than the Queen. But if that's true, why the blazes can't he hire the finest lawyer in all of England? Yes, you would be correct. That's what I'm thinking. Because he did it, that's the only explanation. Well... Oh! Exactly. Yes, exactly. What now? Well, like you said, if you have all that money, but you don't have anyone to represent you in court, there's no other logical conclusion that you're guilty of the charges. Well, you call a spade in the East, so you do. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean any offense. I still can't express myself very well in English, so you see. You're a scumbag! Oh, sorry, I don't know English well. And I'm never sure what's acceptable to say and what isn't, so. Is that so? Because you sounded fluent enough when you were telling me what the background I must have. I'm terribly sorry. I can't say that I blame you for thinking it, fella. It is a little strange, to be honest. Why you don't have a lawyer, I mean. That would be the fault of the Reaper. Sorry, did he just say Reaper? The lawyer died? Ah, the Grim Reaper of the Bailey. Lord Barock von Zeeks. He is the prosecutor. Oh yeah, this plot always, of course. The Grim Reaper? It's always like, the prosecutor is so intimidating, no lawyer is willing to go against him. Of course. So cliche, but it's what you play this game for. So you want to hear it. When Von Zeeks stands for the prosecution, they call the accused his sacrificial lambs. And to this day, in every single trial in which he's been the prosecutor, this does not sound British at all, by the way, I'm not trying to make it sound British. The accused has been damned. It's that much power. He makes sure, he knows what happens to you, he makes sure a certain outcome happens to you after you die. So it's reached the desperate situation where there's no one willing to stand in defense against the fellow at all. You could say he's a living legend of the Old Bailey. Goodness, Lord Barock von Zeeks. He must be an exceptionally talented prosecutor then. Talented isn't the word you're looking for, madame. He's dishonest. It is cursed. Cursed? What on earth? The defendant is summoned and his counsel. Please make your way into the courtroom. The trial is about to begin. His counsel, that would be me. Oh, 'tis time. Well then, fella, don't let me down. But I don't know anything about the case. You haven't told me what happened. Until you showed your face here, I'd made up my mind, so I had. Sorry? I decided I'd have to defend myself in there. How would that have worked? But then you made an appearance, a student of law, wouldn't you know? 'Tis no accident, I can assure you of that. 'Tis fate. So don't get cold feet now, please. I literally know nothing about the case, or about this man who stands accused. In fact, the only thing I do know is that I can't just turn my back on him. Mr. Naruhodo. The man has no one. He'll have to stand alone in that courtroom, armed with nothing to defend himself. Yes, something that Kazuma would never have allowed to happen. Counsel for the defense, what are you doing? If you're late for the start of the trial, you will lose your right to stand. I'll be right there. It's happening then! My first trial in a British court. I hope you're watching over me, Kazuma, because I am about to get slaughtered. I'm just gonna barely be able to manage to convince the judge to delay the verdict one day. So, the highest court in Great Britain, the Old Bailey. The centuries of history in this place is palpable, isn't it? It's so different from the Supreme Court in Japan. It feels both imposing and serene at the same time. The atmosphere almost makes words redundant. Whatever the country, determining a person's guilt or innocence is always a solemn affair. May I say something, Mr. Naruhodo? Oh yes, what? Your eyes look ready to pop out of your head again. I know, but that's just how my art is. I paused there because a certain music started. I'm probably not going to hear it in my recording because I tend to suppress the music quite a bit. But it's like that theme. Okay. In the name of Her Majesty the Queen, I hereby declare this court to be in session. We are here today to determine the guilt or innocence of Mr. Magnus McGilded. I now call upon the counsel of the prosecution and defense to declare their willingness to proceed. The prosecution is fully prepared. That must mean the Reaper of the Bailey. That must be the Reaper of the Bailey. He really does look fully prepared to dispatch his next poor victim to the underworld. Counsel for the defense, you appear to be Eastern. Do you speak English? Huh? Oh, yes, of course, sorry. But he asked if the defense was ready. And I couldn't be further from ready if I tried. Those eyes please me. Nipponese. Is that a slur? Oh no. I presume I wouldn't get this video like taken off YouTube. But you never know. That sounds pretty bad. They shroud your fear, your doubts, your trepidation. They run wild, clinging to some phantom notion of courage. The quintessential look of a sacrificial lamb. A cold shiver just ran down my spine. That was really cheesy though. All the way to the tips of my toes. Now, Mr. McGilded. Yes, my lord? You stand accused of murder, a capital offense. You could be sent to the gallows if found guilty. Notice we didn't actually answer if we were ready. Are you quite sure you wish to entrust your defense to this foreigner? I have always said, my lord, 'tis a grand thing to give opportunities to the young. Even if the fella is a student from some little island in the Far East. It is not the British way to ignore the dangers of yourself and give those less fortunate a fair chance. I'd like to think that act of chivalry to the great British Empire proud. Listen to McGilded, what a fine gentleman London has in him. Did you hear that he donated £5,000 to the government the other day? Why would you donate to the government? It seems as though everyone in the public gallery is firmly behind Mr. McGilded. That's definitely welcome news, and he certainly has a way with words. I'm surprised he couldn't convince anyone to defend him. Eloquently put, Mr. McGilded, in most laudable sentiments. Now, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I'm sure I need hardly remind you. It's only 6? That you 6 members of the public have been selected for your impartiality. Are you ready to proceed? Oh, goodness. Yes, my lord, if the task is to send the rotters to the gallows where they belong, I'm more than ready. At the manor, Mr. Lordship always says we should dispose of rubbish promptly. Naturally, I agree. Any criminals here will soon be wishing they never set eyes on me. I feel a chill. Oh, don't mind me, my dears. I'll just be getting on with my knitting. Must finish these mitts for my grandson. Mr. Naruhodo, those people are... the jury, yes. That's something we don't have in Japan yet. That's right, I've only ever read about it. Here in Great Britain, the court's final verdict depends on the opinions of these 6 jurors. Which are just 6 random people. The judge passes sentence according to the law, but the jurors determine guilt based on common sense. So the defendant is ultimately judged from two completely different points of view. But how exactly do the jurors give their verdict? That I don't know, but... suspense. I'm sure it will become clear as the trial progresses. It's either... Okay, in the United States, in the real world, it's unanimous guilty, unanimous innocent, or hang. Which, if the jury is hung, you have to do the trial all over again. And it only takes one juror to hang the jury. Prosecutor Von Zieks. My lord. It's been a number of years since we've seen you here in the courtroom. I thought you'd renounced your fame. I'm known as the Reaper of the Bailey, my lord. Infamy rather than fame, I would say. But yes, 5 years have passed since I last spread my wings in this capacity. So, what brings you back? Is there some change in circumstance of which the court should be aware? I leave that to your imagination, my lord. Well, there's definitely going to be a big plot point about that. So the Reaper has been out of action for 5 years. Why did he have to choose today of all days to make a comeback? Don't lose heart, Mr. Naruhodo. As you wish, sir. The court nevertheless welcomes your return. Now then, opening statements, I think. A summary of the case, if you please. Certainly, my lord. Very convenient. As your lordship is aware, this is a case of overwhelming simplicity. We must be the only ones in here who aren't aware. The incident took place in the late evening, 3 days past. The hour was some minutes after 10. Yeah, like, this guy's design isn't very creative. It's just like a generic hunk. The victim was a maker of building bricks, known in the community as Thrice-Fired Mason. Sorry, thrice? He was a very accomplished craftsman. The bricks he fired were said to be almost indestructible. The victim's corpse was discovered in an omnibus in service on the streets of London at the time. A dagger had been thrust into the victim's abdomen. A dagger that had been thrust into the victim's abdomen is believed to be the ultimate cause of death. Here is the autopsy report from the investigation medical office at Scotland Yard. Thank you, counsel. I shall accept that and the photograph as evidence. The autopsy report has been entered into the court record. The photograph of the crime scene has been entered into the court record. And one further item of evidence. The prosecution wished to submit these as well. Oh, here we go. And these are... Good lord. Is that blood, counsel? Yes, my lord. Seized by a policeman who arrived at the scene. These gore-soaked gloves were taken from the hands of the accused when he was arrested. What? Mr. McGilded's gloves had blood on them. Did he wear the rings under his gloves, though? Yes, I will accept these as evidence as well. Well, time to get out that stuff you inject into the hands to make them puff up and get all big. The defendant's leather gloves have been entered into the court record. How did I get into this? I backed into a corner before I even started. You obviously haven't played Ace Attorney much, right, Inosuke? Continuing. According to the driver of the omnibus, there were only 2 passengers traveling inside his vehicle at the time. Only 2? Obviously, one of those passengers was the deceased brickmaker, Mr. Mason. So the driver's the one who did it, then. The other was the accused, Magnus McGilded. Well, rather damning circumstances, to say the least. Defendant, what say you? Well, of course I have no recollection of such a thing. Mr. McGilded. To be sure, I rode the omnibus that evening. But whenever I am in a carriage, I am taken with a fierce tiredness, and I always succumb to it. Are you claiming to have been asleep? 'Tis the morning of the carriage, my lord. Lilton, so it is, and when I opened my eyes again, 'twas a desperate sight before me, the body of a man I'd never laid eyes on before in my life. Now I ask yous, what good-hearted soul wouldn't rush to help a fellow bleeding from his stomach? I wasn't about to start worrying about me gloves now, was I? I reached out to give the man a hand. So the blood got on his gloves then after the man had been killed. Unfortunately, that statement of the driver's is only the beginning. What? That's not all of it? There were multiple witnesses to the precise moment at which the brickmaker was fatally stabbed. Oh yes, this precise moment business. Order! 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 When the killing took place, only the victim and the accused were inside the carriage, and there were witnesses to the crime. If this is not a case of compelling evidence, it is the nail in the coffin for the accused. Thank you, counsel. The circumstances of the crime have been made quite clear. I think we will hear the testimony from these witnesses first of all. Your wish is my command. Bailiff, bring the witnesses at once. Do multiple at a time again? Witnesses, your names and occupations. My name is, well, everyone calls me Beppo. I drive an omnibus in the East End. Bruce Fairplay. I'm a banker in the city. My name's First. Lady First. I make hats for gents. Let's begin by confirming the facts. 3 days ago, at a short time after 10 o'clock in the evening, all of you present in the stand were in an omnibus and witness to the aforementioned incident. Yeah, but weren't there only 2 people in the omnibus, besides the driver? Is that correct? Yes, sir. Quite right. Yes, sir, that's right, sir. Very well, then, let's proceed to your formal testimonies, please. Each of you will tell the court precisely what you saw. What the witnesses saw. It was the last bus of the evening, so I had few customers. I remember it well. The victim and the man accused of killing him were sat next to each other inside the bus. Then, out of the blue, the accused just reached over and plunged the knife right into his guts. That's right, he stabbed him. I screamed, I did. Couldn't help it. As soon as I heard the scream, I stopped my bus, and when I saw it too. This already doesn't make sense. Like, how could they see this if they weren't in the bus? Unambiguous testimony, I must say. Exactly, my lord. These men witnessed the incident in the omnibus with their own eyes, but they have to have been in the omnibus. I'd like to ask a question, if I may. Yes, counsel? Well, this testimony makes absolutely no sense to me whatsoever. Why not? Well, the incident took place inside a moving carriage, didn't it? Has been clearly stated from the outset, yes. Well, in that case, how could these two witnesses possibly have seen what happened? There's no way they could have seen the inside of the moving carriage. How quaint. I've read the civilization in the Eastern Island nations was a good century behind our own. But you're here in London yourself. Are you really so ignorant about our omnibuses? Huh? Tell me, oh no, I don't know. Have you ever even traveled in an omnibus? Well, no. Well, only arrived in London this morning. No matter. I've arranged for us all to see for ourselves the actual scene of the crime, that is. What do you mean? The actual scene? How? The carriage is designed to be moved, after all. Presumably you understand that much. Yes. The omnibus in which this bloody crime took place is here today in this very building. Here? What? The entire carriage? Bailiff? Bring forth the stricken omnibus. How did they turn it? So that's the omnibus. The omnibus. I can't believe they would bring something so enormous in here. Great Britain's courtrooms are amazing. As you can see, the omnibus is pulled by 2 horses and can carry up to 8 passengers. 4 passengers seated inside the enclosed cabin, and another 4 on the rooftop deck above. Every Londoner knows that the best views of the city's architecture and sights are to be had on the top of an omnibus. And I should point out to our foreign guests that there is a skylight in the roof, allowing a view of the interior from the seats above. Ah, skylight. Oh, so that's how there's only two people inside the omnibus, but you could still witness it. Okay. The penny drops at last, I see. These 2 gentlemen were occupying the rooftop seats of the omnibus when the murder took place. That is how they came to witness the grim incident. Through the skylight. They just happened to be looking down? That makes perfect sense, except why were they looking down in the skylight for? Well, counsel, this is a first. In all my years behind the bench, I've never experienced the crime scene itself being brought into the courtroom. There are a number of important clues remaining inside the carriage, my lord. I would like to submit the omnibus itself as evidence. That is the prosecution's wish. Very well, I see no reason why not. The omnibus is hereby formally accepted as evidence. And this is kind of like a variation of the villain's evil monologue at the end, telling the protagonist what exactly they're going to do. The more evidence is submitted to the court record by the prosecutor, the more things we can use. I can't believe it. The entire crime scene entered as evidence. Yes, Great Britain is simply extraordinary. I could help myself a lot by giving that omnibus a thorough examination, seeing as it's here. Let us continue with our quiz proceedings then. Your cross-examination, counsel? Oof. Pray don't expect this stray to understand the intricacies of British courts' cross-examination rights. My first cross-examination in a British court. Focus, Rinosuke. Focus. It's like he sniffs some ammonia. Okay, here we go. It was the last bus of the evening, so I had few customers. I remember that well. Well, this one didn't seem to have anything. I better look at the court record here. This is not going to be useful. Cause of death, 15th of February, 10 p.m. to 11 p.m. So consistent with the last bus of the day. Stabbed once in the abdomen with a knife whilst journeying in an omnibus. Died due to an internal hemorrhage resulting from the trauma. Okay, nothing weird there, it seems. I don't know why the knife wouldn't have been pulled out by the accused, but interesting. There's a button missing from the jacket. I don't know if that's gonna matter. Anything out there? Stairs to get on the top. Skylight looks down in. There's just 2 benches, and there's actually a seat at the very front. Phoenix Wright Omnibus, of course. Baker Old Street. Strand Street, Old Street. Job Masters London Head Online. Okay. I'll press it.
Hold it!
Yes, I think it was sometime after 10, wasn't it? Oh yes, sir, that's right, sir. Yes. Even so cold it was, sir. Freezing, in fact. And you had 4 passengers on board at the time, is that correct? Yes, that's right, sir. Not all traveling in the same parts of the bus, of course, though, no. And there were no other passengers when the incident took place? No one all alighted, for example? You're quite right, that, sir. No other passengers like that. No, none.
Excuse me.
Mr. First. Oh, how can I help you, sir? That last statement, did it trouble you in some way? Oh, not particularly, sir, no. If anything, he's troubling me with that hat of his. Has he greased his head? Oh dear, sir, I hope my hat's not troubling you, sir. I'm still just an apprentice, you see. Mr. Naruhodo, even the witnesses can see what's going through your mind. You really must be more careful. Oh, I wish it were that simple. Huh. The victim and the man accused of killing him were sat next to each other inside the bus.
Hold it!
And you saw them through the skylight and the roof of the carriage? That's right. When you sit on the top deck, the window right there at your feet. There was a lamp on inside, so I had a pretty good view. 2 of them were wearing hats. I couldn't exactly make out their faces. But there's not a shred of doubt in my mind that it was Mr. McGilded. How can you be so sure? Well, how can I put it politely? McGilded is a gentleman of rather small stature. I couldn't have mistaken him for anyone else. Let's not forget that when the vehicle came to a halt, the only people inside of the enclosed cabin were the deceased Mr. Mason and Mr. McGilded. There is no room for doubt here. I really wish there was. Then out of the blue, okay.
Hold it!
You actually saw the exact moment it happened. Did I already testify to that? Our fair, dinkum, hard-working city banker is not considered trustworthy these days. Oh, no, I didn't mean that. This is no good. I've really got his back up. Perhaps you could just tell us what you saw in a little more detail, if that's... My lord? Juror number 3, what is the meaning of this? My mind is made up, my lord. Completely and utterly made up. Made up about what? I don't like the stinking rich. Never have. They're always up to something or other that they shouldn't be, every one of them. And that little leprechaun of a man is no exception. Well, he can't fool me. There's no point wasting time listening to any more of this. That's my opinion on the matter anyway. That's precisely what I was about to say. As the foreman of the jury, it is my duty to set a good example to my fellow jurors. What is happening here? Let me see. Ah, yes. It seems that that's how the members of the jury give their verdicts. With fire? Apparently, yes. White for innocent and black for guilty. As the 6 members of the jury make up their minds about the case, one by one they each cast a ball of fire into the great scales of justice, as we saw a moment ago. So if those enormous scales fall completely to the black side, does that mean... Let's do our best to make sure that doesn't happen. Now I'm even more worried than I was before. Very well, the court acknowledges the change in the jury's stance. Counsel for the defense, please continue with your cross-examination. This is a nightmare. That's right, he stabbed him. I screamed, I did. I couldn't help it.
Hold it!
He stabbed him, you say, and you were sitting up on the roof deck, were you? The usual. I remember seeing the little gent sitting next to the fellow that was stabbed. I'd been thinking about a new hat design, you see, so I was just gazing absent-mindedly around. But then I happened to look down through the skylight. It was sticking right out from his belly, that huge great knife. Humph. A grim sight indeed. Ah, that didn't help me at all. The jury looks like they're even more convinced my client did it than they were before. That appears to have made everyone even more dubious than Mr. McGilded is telling the truth. If only we had some evidence to counter their suspicions. Mr. First. Yes, sir. Is this the knife you saw? Oh, good grief, yes, that is the very one, sir. Why is the sheath with it? Is that? Yes, counsel. This is the blade that was driven into the victim's belly like a stake through the heart. That is a blade of considerable size, counsel. It is, and furthermore, the scabbard is emblazoned prominently with a certain initial. The letter M, which seems oddly familiar. Please, no. M for Magnus, perhaps, or McGilded, possibly. Take your pick. It seems this particular big name in London made a magnificent mistake.
Objection!
There are M's everywhere. Like in Mason.
Objection!
This blade is far too extravagant for a poor brickmaker to have owned. No, this weapon is weapon of murder almost certainly belongs to the accused. Not conclusive, but certainly compelling, counsel. The murder weapon has been entered into the court record. My lord, if you'll forgive the interruption. Juror number 2, go on. Mr. McGilded is a pillar of society and a gentleman's word should be sacrosanct. However, those of us in service know we must accept hard truths. Wait, what are you about to do? Dispose of the rubbish. These people have good aim. No. I don't wish to cause offense, but I do like to eradicate all traces of filth and grime. I have painstakingly typed every word uttered here today and cross-referenced all the facts. As such, I am now in a position to draw the only logical conclusion. We have the random old lady. Not again. That's 4 out of 6 jury members who proposed a guilty verdict. There are only 2 left. We've had it. Every time I press these witnesses for more information, I just make the situation worse. Nevertheless, all we need more than anything at the moment is more information. We're still very much in the dark. I suppose I'll just have to keep pressing the witnesses, knowing that more sparks may well fly. We mustn't give up our hope that we'll uncover something that will give us a way to fight back. But, alright, I'll keep trying. I can't give up. I just need to keep calm and listen to the witnesses' statements again. I just need to keep calm and carry on. As soon as I heard the scream, I stopped the bus, and then I saw it too.
Hold it!
What exactly did you see? Oh, well, sir, that would be the passenger, sir. Yes, collapsed on the floor he was. And by the passenger, obviously, you are referring to the victim, Mr. Mason, the brickmaker. And then the other passengers had the knife in it. The other passenger had the knife in his hand like this. This testimony is absolutely terrible. By the other passenger, obviously, you are referring to the accused, Mr. Magnus McGilded. And then he plunged it down like this, stabbing the other passenger in the belly. What? Order. It is hard to believe of one of London's greatest philanthropists, but this is damning indeed. The law knows no philanthropist, my lord. Only the innocent and the guilty. Good deeds mean nothing when overshadowed by evil. The truth is everything. One Wiener Schnitzel wipes out 10 attaboys. Couldn't agree more, sir. The truth. Alright, so when it happened, the only 2 people in the enclosed cabin area were the victim and the defendant. And so help me. 3 whole people witnessed the man I'm trying to defend do the deed? I don't like to be pessimistic, but we do seem to be in a rather difficult situation here. Yeah, but he wasn't on the floor and on his back, and the way they found the body upright, and he would have been stabbed before he stopped the carriage. So, like, what am I supposed to think here? How are we supposed to challenge the driver on his, like, not his obviously inconsistent stuff? Is Mr. McGilded really innocent? Or could it be... Before we jump to conclusions, our first task should be to gather information. We need to understand the case much better than we do at the moment. Yes, you're absolutely right. Let's listen to those witness statements again, a little more carefully this time. I gotta press this the right way this time. Yes, I think it was some time after 10, wasn't it? Yes, sir, that's right. And you had 4 passengers on board at the time, is that correct? Yes, sir, that's right, sir. Not all the traveling in the same parts of the bus, of course, though, no. And there were no other passengers when the incident took place. No one alighted, for example. You're quite right with that, sir. No other passengers like that, no, none. So nobody fled the scene of the crime, then. I have to say, the boss instincts on it running he does every evening, that last bus of the day. The boss insists. But I do wonder sometimes if it's altogether worthwhile, yes, sorry to say. What do you mean by that? Well, what's with it being so cold and everything, and only making 20 pence on the rum, you see. Yes, I spend that much on the pub on the way home, just trying to warm up again. I just can't believe it, sir. I can't believe it. A murder on my own bus. It's too awful to think about. I haven't been able to shake this cold ever since it happened. My lord, I wish to speak. Yes, sure, number 5. Do I take it that you too? As the master of the London Guild of Coachmen, the idea of a murder being committed on one of the city carriages is utterly abhorrent to me. Oh, it wouldn't be right to make a decision before hearing all the facts, though, I said to myself. But I've heard enough now. The horse has bolted, as they say. No, please, just keep an open mind a little longer. Gee up now, Silver Blaze, the finish is in sight. I was a long-standing member of the guild, and I trust what the man says. Oh, thank you, sir. You're too kind, sir. This is too unkind, sir. Which now means that 5 jurors agree to condemn this man. And I'm juror number 6. Yes, dear. What can I do for you? Have you heard the testimonies of the witnesses in the stand? Oh yes, I certainly have. I still got my hearing, you know. Then pray tell, why are you yet to pronounce your leaning? Well, dear, the thing is, I'm a creature of habit, me. I always go to the park at around this time of day, and sit on a nice bench and get on with my knitting. There is a lovely little park just near where I live. McGilded Park, it's called. A gentleman donated it to the city, you know, to put a smile on Londoners' faces, he said. I can't imagine such a fine young gentleman would have it in him to take another man's life. He's always doing wonderful things for the city. That's right, a man like that wouldn't stab someone, surely. Mother, may we go to the McGilded Public Library later to borrow some more books? How many Londoners live with their heads in the clouds? Do you people not know what kind of man Magnus McGilded really is? What kind of man is he? Philanthropist Magnus McGilded has enough wealth to purchase the entire city he claims to value so highly. But where did all that wealth come from? The client is a Shylock, sir, and one with the very darkest of souls. What? Stone the crows. McGilded lives money at extortionate rates of interest, and his victims have no hope of repaying him. Well, how do you make money that way? When they default, he takes possession of everything they own. He is a vulture that preys on the weak. I never heard any mention of that before. Your faculties haven't deserted you, I'm sure, madame. So has this thought not crossed your mind? Would a man wealthy enough to buy London in its entirety have not a carriage of his own? What possible reason could this man have had to make use of a public omnibus service? You're not saying that the victim, a poor brickmaker, had next to nothing to his name, save considerable financial liability. It will come as no surprise that his creditor was the accused, Magnus McGilded. But let it also be known that the very day Mr. Mason was killed was the final repayment date for his debts. Good gracious. The brickmaker was destitute. He had lost his house. He had not a shilling with which to repay his debts. And in the end, this pitiful soul had the very last thing he owned taken from him, his life. But why would you take the life for? By the merciless philanthropist pretender, Magnus McGilded. I don't believe it. If I might add something briefly, Miss Susatu. You claim that the victim had been lent money by Mr. McGilded. Where is the evidence to support your claim? Pray forgive the discourtesy of filling my hallowed chalice in a court of law. There it is. Lord von Zeke's hallowed chalice. How can this be considered acceptable? But I find myself in unexpectedly good humor. I had heard ladies from the Far East could show great courage, but I didn't expect to experience it myself. As a judicial assistant to the defense, I am simply doing my job. What a pity that your display of courage is in vain. This is the debtor's ledger, which details all monies loaned by the accused. You will find the victim's name clearly recorded inside. Oh. Allow me to present this ledger as evidence. And pray forgive the discourtesy of raising my chalice in a toast to the enigmatic East at the same time. Marvelous toast, Counsel. I will gladly accept this new evidence. The debtor's ledger has been entered into the court record. Category of people that borrowed money from the defendant at a high rate of interest. It includes the victim who owed 20 Guinness. Ah yes, 20 Guinness. The victim owed a considerable sum. And the accused made quite certain he had ample recompense. Well, it would seem I've had the wool pulled over my eyes. Regrettably, madame, that is the modus operandi of the accused. And it's such a pretty little park, too. What a scoundrel. Still, maybe it's all for the best. Wait a minute. Let's think about this. I don't stand for nonsense. Is that a game over? Did I just get game overed? That was it. The last juror's decision. According to this Encyclopedia of British Law, the game isn't over till it's over. When all the members of the jury have concluded that the defendant is guilty, court proceedings are suspended and the presiding judge will deliver the final verdict and sentence. That is what it says here. The final verdict. It's over then. Oh. There's a footnote, though. A footnote. However, the defense... All 6 members of the jury are now in agreement in this case. Allow me to convey my respect for your swift and righteous decision. According to the laws of this country, I will now conclude the trial by delivering my final verdict. I trust there is no objections. Well, Susato? Miss Susato, just tell me one thing. Oh, yes? You were in the middle of saying something before. The footnote in the Encyclopedia of British Law. However, the defense... What did you say next? Oh yes, of course. One moment. I can just land that page. When all members of the jury have concluded that the defendant is guilty, she'd be excellent at sword drills. Court proceedings are suspended and the presiding judge will deliver the final verdict and sentence. Then the footnote says, however, the defense has the right to demand a summation examination of the jurors at this point. Summation? Examination?
Objection!
Summation examination? From which century has that tome you have there been resurrected? Judging from the binding, I would say that book is at least 50 years old. Any modern text on British law wouldn't even give such an antiquated procedure a mention. It's a relic, long forgotten, and certainly no longer practiced. So you're out of luck. Oh. What even is it, Miss Susato? The so-called summation examination. Oh, one moment, and I'll read about it. You would demand the right to a procedure before you even understand what it entails? Typical. Alright, Mr. Naruhodo, I think I understand. It seems that under this procedure, we would be able to appeal to the members of the jury. To do what exactly? Appeal to them to change their leaning and reverse their decision, and it says here that if successful, the proceedings of the trial must be resumed. Make them reverse their decisions? Yes, and in times go by, barristers would use a summation examination to attempt to influence the jury's decision. But that procedure became something of a formality with no practical benefit, really, so it rather fell out of use. I wonder why. Because it was devoid of purpose. Changing just one member of the jury's mind would be hard enough, let alone several. No self-respecting defense barrister would even assert his right to try in this day and age. Still, I don't see any mention of the procedure actually being formally revoked. What are you suggesting? I'm suggesting that, although it may be antiquated and largely forgotten, it isn't yet extinct. What do you think, Mr. Naruhodo? Summation examination, our last possible option. Do we assert our right to carry it out or admit defeat? The defense wishes to assert its right to a summation examination, my lord. And with that, I will save the game. And that's it for this one.